Today we have another young Indian with us as part of the Voice of the Young segment. Hello, everybody. Good to be with you once again. Today we have with us Raunak Jha. Let's listen to him. Over to you, Raunak.
Hi, it's nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me. So, a little bit of background about myself. So, I'm Raunak. I hail from Calcutta. So, and currently I'm working as an RA at BKPL, which is the Workers Korean Policy Lab at IRMA. So, a little bit of background about myself. I currently do research work, and the kind of research I do is basically non-experimental research, quasi-experimental research. So that includes things like RCTs and DIDs. So for those who don't know what RCT is, RCT stands for randomized control trials, where basically we have a control group and we have a treatment group, and then we give some sort of an intervention
Mhm.
to the treatment, and then we see how that treatment is making a change. Okay, and usually, so the term is actually borrowed from the medical industry, but
Yes.
it's used in public policy. And I mean,
Yeah.
Banerjee and Dr. have even won a
Yeah.
Nobel for it a
Uh,
couple of years back. So yeah, so basically, how I got into this is, so I was never sure that I was going to pursue economics. I wanted to get into corporate. I was that kind of a person that I'll probably do an MBA and just work as a corporate analyst or something. But I think it's in class 12 when we were introduced with microeconomics for the first time, and then they told us what is the indifference curve and like the law of demand, and all that seemed very fascinating to me because it was like an interface of economics and psychology, and this seemed just too new to me, and I wanted to learn more. So that's how I got into economics. Then for my bachelor's, I went off to St. Xavier's University, which is in Calcutta, and post that, I went to TERI, which is in New Delhi, the chance for the Energy and Resource Institute, where I pursued my master's in economics, specializing in environmental and resource economics. So the reason I chose TERI was because of basically the trend at the time. So I am the COVID batch. I spent almost 1.5 years online. I graduated online, and then I remember people were talking about climate change and sustainability, and this seemed
yeah.
very fascinating to me. That
Yeah.
I want to get into what the current market is talking about. I
Yeah.
want to be, I want to know what the trend is. I want to be relevant. So this just seemed very fascinating to me, and I was very surprised to know that there's a field called environmental and resource economics.
Yeah.
Because economics in conventional terms is basically, especially if you it's about like macroeconomics and you have development economics, so you don't expect environment to be linked with economics at all. And here
Yeah.
we have a university which is specializing in that. So that seemed like a cool place to be. So I applied and I got in. And I think Terry is a very niche place to be because the work they are doing is very relevant right now. And even at Terry, I got to know that there's a difference between environmental economics and then something called maybe resource economics.
Yeah.
So, so if I can just talk about that. So in economics, in environmental economics, what we do is we consider a whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
We consider that ecosystem is linked with your economy. And
Yeah.
then we have two functions. We have the source function and we have the sink function. So what the source function does is basically, source function is what we call natural resource economics. So what we do over here is we look at the natural resources that we have. It could be forests, it could be wetlands, it could be fisheries and whatnot. And you look at these resources and how they are being mobilized to form a well-functioning society. And in the sink function, we look at the sink or the wastes that come out of this society. So basically, things about air pollution, carbon market, marginal
Yeah.
abatement cost. These things are what comprise environmental economics. So this distinction, I could understand this distinction very well because of Terry, and yeah, that's all about it. But then how I got into
Let
research.
me just stop you
Yeah,
there.
yeah, sure.
Resource economics was being taught way before environmental economics was taught. Okay.
Hmm.
And actually, economists always knew the underlying theory of the environment, but
Right.
never got around to teaching it.
Yeah, yeah.
That the theory was known, but it was not very interesting, not very exciting, and the focus was on resource economics.
Hmm.
And that also not very heavily, but yes, it was there before we started teaching environmental economics. So actually, I taught undergraduate and graduate courses in environmental
Oh
economics,
wow.
but I had never studied resource economics or environmental economics or
Yeah.
anything. And I also got an invitation to teach energy economics at Johns Hopkins SAIS, not in the economics department, but the
Hmm.
School for Advanced International Study. So all these things have now been, although I'd never taught energy economics,
Yeah.
but they said, no, it doesn't matter, you can teach. Okay, fine.
Right. Of course.
But
Yeah.
the all of these things have now become very much in demand. Okay.
Yeah.
TERI is, of course, an old institution and now very prominent. Now very
Hmm.
prominent because it
Yeah.
is one of the only place in India that has this specialized course and it is world
Yeah.
class. So it's
For
very
sure.
good. It's very good and it's a you know very I mean, they get good students and they have good professors, so you learn a
Hmm.
lot. But I'm just saying that resource economics existed way back, say like when
Yeah.
the cartels were formed, the oil cartels
Hmm.
of 1970s. Then resource economists were in demand. They were not
Hmm.
environmental economists,
Right.
they were just resource economists. Anyway,
Right.
that's just by way of giving you the history. But let's go ahead.
Yeah.
After all
Yeah.
that, you decided not to do anything in it.
No, so I'd say I am very grateful for the opportunity I had at TERI, and I think the best part about TERI was that I was taught by experts in the fields.
Yes,
The people they're doing such contemporary work. I mean,
yes.
I'm very fortunate for that. I'm a very blessed person to be taught by people like Dr. Sukanya Das, Dr. Nandan Nan. These are environmental and ecological economists, and I think whatever little I know about economics and environment in general is like all thanks to them. So no, definitely it was a great learning environment, and I think Terry, what Terry does is they try to broaden your horizon, not just in terms of learning more about resource and environment and economics and the interface of the three, but also for research. So like whatever curriculum we had, we didn't have any pen and paper exams. We hardly had any pen and paper exams. It was all about seminal paper presentations. It was about writing term papers, and we were writing essays. We were authoring original essays, and we were writing critical reviews. And it was a very hectic process, because if we, let's say, I chose to do a critical review on one topic, I can't just write a paper on it. I would have to get that approved first, and that itself was a long process, because I remember I have batchmates whose proposals got rejected like 4 times. So this was a very yeah, this was definitely very hectic. And I mean, in most universities, this kind of rigor is basically you endure this rigor only during your master's thesis or something. But over here, we were doing it just for like one term paper. So Terry has been a great place to be. Like I got exposed to the idea of research and
Okay.
how research is carried out.
By the
Then in
way, did
Terry,
you also find that Delhi was more of a cosmopolitan place and you met people from all over India rather than
definitely.
just from Kolkata?
Definitely, definitely. I think my best friends are from Terry. I mean, in fact, when I was leaving Terry, Delhi to come to VKPL, my main issue was that I'm leaving my support system there, because I was surrounded by brilliant people. I mean, not just uh, in case of my teachers, but my peer group, my support. They were not just my support group, but it's such a smart cohort, and everybody does such good work, like in research, and the kind of work they do in their internships, the kind of organizations they intern at. So it's a very competitive, it's a very ambitious, and it's a very helping group. So I think Terry makes that environment for you. That's what I feel,
Okay.
like because of the course curriculum that we have. So and then there's this one component of a master's thesis in Terry, which is a mandatory thesis. So we don't have any classes in the fourth semester. You are free to audit some courses if you want, but most people choose not to because of how hectic the thesis is. And in most cases, we end up doing primary survey. So almost 90% of the batch does primary survey. But
Yeah.
it's not like, yeah. So for example, if you're in Delhi, doesn't mean you will do primary survey in Delhi. Like I have friends who have gone to Kutch, who have gone to Bihar, who have gone to Rajasthan, like all across the country, going to Banaras and collecting the data, spending about more than a month there. So it's a good exposure to the field work as well.
Okay.
And I think that is what also got me, or maybe you could say, enriched my interest in RCTs and field experiments, like the work I do right now. Because if I want to talk about my current interest in development, so we had this course of development economics in the second semester, and that is when I got exposed to the idea of RCTs and DITs. Because
Okay.
we were reading papers of Dufflo and Banerjee and Frank Shilbach and Rohini Pandey. Like,
Yeah.
I just love her work. Okay,
Yeah.
and it just seems so fascinating to me that you give some treatment to some people, you don't give it to some people, and then you draw inferences. Like, it's unheard of. I mean, especially as an undergrad, you don't hear much about RCTs.
Right.
But then, yeah, and the kind of work you do is very contemporary. Like, there are papers by Frank Shilbach, he's a professor at MIT. And what he does is he sees the impact of mental health on economic outcomes, mental health
Yeah.
interventions, economic outcomes. Now,
Yeah.
this is something very novel. This is very
Okay.
unheard of. Like, right? So, this is what sparked my interest. And then during my thesis, so I'd gone to Bihar. I stayed in Patna for about more than a month. So I was trying to look at water use behavior of households in a region which deals with water scarcity or intermittent water supply. So I use your time diary approach. Like, basically, I asked households to maintain a diary every day. I would go and check if they're maintaining a diary, and I looked at their water use behavior. So before I went to the field, I was going by these Jal Jeevan reports, and I saw that like so many taps have been installed, so many pipes have been installed. So that sort of put me in a. So that sort of gave me a very. I was very puzzled by that because I had seen these secondary data reports which said that Bihar is now at the face of an incumbent water crisis because of the recent water depletion, because of climate change, and so on. And these regions are facing water scarcity. But then you have these Jal Jeevan reports, which are saying that so many taps have been installed, so people have more access to water and all. But then once I went to the field, I saw that that is not necessarily the case. You might have a tap installed in your house, but that doesn't mean that you're getting water,
Yeah.
right? So it's a supply and demand issue. It's a separate issue.
Yeah.
So and once you're on the field, you realize that sometimes secondary data sources may not be the most reliable. So it's
Yeah.
always good to conduct a primary survey,
Yeah.
and that's what happens at VKPL. Like, we always conduct primary surveys. We
Mm-hmm.
don't rely on secondary data. We do our own research. We
Mm.
get our own data. So yeah, like I remember when I was in the field, I saw that in a neighborhood, for example, if someone is getting water and it's a water crunch day, so let's say not everybody is getting water, what people would do is they would passively refuse water. So instead of actively saying that no, I will not be sharing a jar of water with you, they would just leave their house, put a lock on their door. That way, they will never meet the person who's coming to ask for water,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
still save the face in the community,
Yeah.
right? So these were some things. These are some things that you only learn once you're in the field. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
these are some very little, yeah. So yeah, that's about TERI, and that's about research. How I got exposed to the
Yeah.
idea of
Yeah.
research and how research is
Okay.
carried out. Yeah, and currently I work as an RA.
So, who inspired you to go to IRMA? What made
Okay,
you
so
think of that? What made you
so
think
I
of that?
so I was very sure that I'll go for a PhD right away after
Yeah.
my masters. I was very sure I'll be giving a GRE. But then I think during my internships, I sort of felt that maybe I need to learn more because I have so many interests. Like, as I said, I want to work in mental health. I want to work on, like, just transition. I want to work at the interface of development and environment. So I don't have any one particular fixed interest. And my
Mm-hmm.
seniors and all, they all had a proper research question. They had one research question. They had a research proposal all chalked out.
Yeah.
I was not one of them. So I was not
Yeah.
sure that, PhD is the if this is the right time to go for a PhD or not. So RA-ship is what was recommended to be by my TERI professors itself. They said, get your exposure, see what area interests you,
Yeah.
like get your skill set developed. So yeah, so I think it was my supervisor for my thesis, Dr. Sukanya Das. She's HOD at TERI as well. She sent me this IRMA link. She told me to apply for it, and I just applied blindly. I was not sure that I'm gonna even get in
Yeah.
because I was just applying to multiple places. I just wanted an RA-ship.
Yeah.
So I applied, and like things worked out and I got in. And I'm actually very fortunate that I got in because the team at the lab, it's a very small team. It's a
Yeah.
very small team. So what happens is when you're working with less people, you end up doing a lot of work yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you have a big team, then there's a hierarchy. Then somebody will do this, somebody will do that. But if you're working in a team of 5 to 6 people and you're working on multiple projects, you learn things on the job.
Yeah.
So I remember, like, so I have been here for just a month, a little over a month. I have already learned service CTO. I have learned CAPI. My CETA skills have improved. I have designed a question. I have written a proposal. So I think there's a very steep learning curve here, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that is what happens in any research organization as well. I mean, any especially if you're working under a professor,
Yeah.
because you end up doing a lot of work and you end up doing a lot of reading to do
Yeah.
that work, there's because it's a job, but like a it's like a training kind of a job.
Yeah.
So you can't be spoon fed everything, but
No.
then you still can go to people if you have doubts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think in that context, VKPL is a great place to work.
And do they
And
pay you, or how do you live? Do they
sorry,
pay
sir,
you? Are you getting paid, or
I'm getting paid. I'm getting paid decently.
because in TERI you had to pay for yourself? I take it you didn't get a scholarship.
No, no, no. TERI I had to pay for myself. TERI was
Yeah.
a university, so
Yeah.
you pay.
So
But
finally
here, like,
you're getting paid.
yeah, finally, I'm getting paid for research, so that is great. So the way I like to think about it, and the way like even my professor at VKPL, the way he stresses, so what he says is that think of it as a training. Don't think of it as a job. Think of it as a learning for or a scholarship for which like you're getting money.
Yeah.
Like you're learning, you're getting a skill set, and you're getting money.
Yeah.
Because the minute you start thinking of it as a job, then I think you get into a corporate mindset. Then
Yeah.
you want a 9 to 5 structure. You don't want to put that extra effort.
Yeah.
And the point of doing an RA-ship is to build your personality, build a brand, and get skill sets that can help you to go somewhere ahead later.
Okay.
So, right, I think that is how I think of an RA-ship. That is how I think of. That's what I have gained in this one last month in my
So
work
how
here.
are your fellow RAs here? What do you call each other? An RA? How
No,
are you?
yeah. So we address each other. We like on a first name basis. There's
No,
no
but you
sir,
are
nothing.
fellow. You are all fellow RAs, right?
Yeah.
So how are they different from? I mean, now you have three sets of peers. Kolkata, Xavier's, TERI,
Right.
Delhi, and now IRMA. So how do you
Hmm.
compare them? What is the difference, and so on?
I think that's a very interesting question. I've never thought about that. Okay.
I just
I
want to
think
know. You can tell me anything.
yeah.
Uh,
Okay, so I have been here just for a month, so I don't think I can give a I don't think I have a very clear picture on it. But I think of my fellow RAs the same way I used to think of people at TERI. Because even at TERI, you're doing your own work. You have your own projects, and maybe you're working with people together, but you're working for your own goal at the end of the day. Similarly, at VKPL or at IRMA as well, like you have your own projects. Like everybody's working on multiple projects, but then you have your own work to do as well. So you
yeah,
have your own readings to do, right? For example, like so we have weekly presentations here. So every RA is required to present one technical paper or like one empirical paper every week, and that's
yeah,
how you learn, right? That's how
yeah.
you learn. Like
Okay.
so if you have doubts, like I just go to my research fellow. Like I think everybody's very patient with me. So I bombard into their offices and I talk to them and ask them to explain to me, like derive this, derive that. So I think it's a great cohort to be here. And I think the best part of this is it's a very small group.
Yeah.
I think that's why there's a greater bonding here as well. Had it been a larger group, then it would have been more of an like an organizational structure. But over here, it's just like all of us are just fresh graduates, trying to figure out things and getting hands-on training on things. So yeah, it's a great place to be.
And how's the host? You live in a hostel, right?
No. I don't live in hostel. So initially, RAs they did stay on campus, but recently the system has changed. It will, I think, revert to like I think we can go back to campus again a couple of months later. But as of now, like we are staying off campus.
Okay.
So
So you have to manage your own everything, right?
no, that's okay. Yeah, so another great thing about IRMA is although I work at VKPL, there are other RAs as well. So the other RAs like under other professors. So there's a very strong RA community here. So it's
Okay.
not difficult getting a place. It's not difficult, getting a flatmate. So yeah, that way you're taken care of, and because everybody has to go to the office, and the thing is, you don't even stay off campus for that long. Sometimes, because of deadlines or because of your own readings, you have to be at the lab. So I have already slept in the lab twice in this one month. Yeah, I'm not
Slept
kidding.
or
There's
not
like one.
slept?
Yeah, there's this one yoga mat in the lab, and I just take naps there. I sleep. So for example, if it's getting too late and I can't go back home or I have to come back early, so like people can stay back in the campus. So that's not an issue.
Okay.
But yeah,
It's very heartening to hear that you are having a happy and exciting research life. I mean, it's
It's research is.
you,
I think
yeah,
research is exciting, and that's why whatever comes with it. I mean, you take it in stride.
Yeah, yeah.
And so anything whatever is exciting is gonna make you push your boundaries, and that again makes you happy. So
Okay.
like yeah.
All right. Happy thoughts. You've done well. Obviously, you have gone to the leading institutions in India, which are world class, actually. So it's great to hear that you are still happy to do this work and enjoying it, and you meet new people, you meet new friends, and all that. This is the
Yeah,
time to do all these things, right?
yeah,
Okay, good.
yeah,
So,
for sure, for
anything
sure.
else you want to add here today?
Sure. So I could talk about the kind of work we do.
Yeah,
So
please.
basically, yeah. So what the lab does is basically we design interventions.
Yeah,
So to give a quick, like a brief overview of what an intervention is. So for example, I feel that a certain policy can make a certain change somewhere, but I don't know if that policy. But I want to get substantial evidence to see if that is the case or not. So what we do is we do quasi-experimental work.
yeah.
So quasi-experimental and experimental work. So we basically have two groups, control groups and treatment groups, and we give treatment or intervention to one group. And the way the work is different as compared to other organizations is because we incorporate a lot of machine learning techniques here. So, for example, even if let's say we are doing some qualitative work, let's say I want to see the impact of let's say some Mahila Sabha intervention in some village. Okay, let's say some Mahila Sabhas are organized, and I want to see if it made an impact or not. So the work, so what we do is we deploy people to maybe record the Mahila Sabha sessions as well. Once we have the recordings, then we can apply something like NLP, which is like natural language processing, which helps you understand, what kind of words were used, what kind of tones were used. Were they more, commanding in nature? Were they more toned down in nature? So that again, is a separate set of gives you a separate set of understanding of how the intervention was carried out. So
Okay,
so there's novelty not just in terms of the intervention or the treatment arms, but also in terms of techniques you employ. So that is the kind of work we do. And what we do is we try to look at cost effective measures that can be scalable in nature. Because we
okay.
are working, because the development experimental economics lab. So we
Yeah,
are working in the micro domain.
yeah,
So, for example, if you're looking at a fintech technology, the problem with fintech is that it can be low cost, but it's not easily adaptable because of lack of education. So
yeah.
somebody who does not have enough education, they may not be able to, let's say, adopt to a certain device quickly. The point of the intervention or the treatment arm is to design your policy in such a way that they can understand. They can
Okay.
understand and they can implement it in their daily lives.
All
And
right.
then again, I think I've mentioned this term treatment arms multiple times. So
Yeah,
a treatment arms is basically we look at ways in which the same intervention can be given to different sets of people.
yeah,
For example, sometimes you might directly go and give a piece of information to you to somebody, right? At the same time, we might look at some central, like we might look at social networks. For example, like if you go to somebody who's very popular in the village, they might disseminate that information more effectively, as compared to somebody else. So
yeah.
that is what we do. We look at treatment arms, we design interventions, and yeah, the point is to basically bring a change using implementers theory of change as well. So usually
Okay.
the implementers are the state bodies and central bodies.
Okay.
But yeah,
Wonderful. It's good to hear all this talk, that there's
yeah,
some research activity going on, and
yeah.
it's very applied research. It's
It's
very
very
applied.
applied. It's applied economics.
It's
Yes.
very applied research on the ground, primary data
Yeah.
on the ground, and you're getting your understanding of what's really happening in India, rather than just people sitting in
Just
Delhi,
doing a desk research.
or
Yeah.
people sitting in Washington and writing reports.
Yeah. 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 Yeah,
Okay.
because the RAs and they end up going to the field along with the enumerators. So even if
Yeah,
you have an enumerator team, a field team, you end up going to the field to see, to
yeah.
supervise and to see things for yourself, right? And then even the raw data that we get here, we do very high robustness checks with the data. So for
Okay.
example, we'll do high frequency checks to see the data we're getting, is that right or not. For
Yeah, yeah.
example, if I'm
Okay.
asking
We
yeah,
know
yeah.
we know you get good data. I'm not interested in good data.
No, no,
I
it's
want to
just
ask you, what was the most unexpected thing you have seen in a field visit so far? What was it
okay.
that you
So
really did not know in advance, but then you say, oh, this is how it is? Can you just think for a second and say, listen, this is what I really feel I could never have learned sitting on my desk? That
Hmm.
is something that was meaningful.
So,
Yeah,
hmm.
let's try it.
So I think as of now, I haven't gone to the field as an RA, but
Yeah.
I can just recall like an incident during my master's thesis
Okay,
itself.
fine.
Sure. So, as I was mentioning one incident, right, that how people put up locks on their doors. This is something I could not have imagined. I would
Yeah,
think that people would just actively refuse water,
yeah,
but putting up locks, going out of your way because there's a genuine problem there. There's a genuine crisis. There's a water issue. If you share water, you don't have water for yourself, and that is a genuine crisis, right? So this is something you don't even hear about. You don't see it in papers, but you
yeah.
see it once in the field. Then so I remember this one incident. I was talking to the mukhya of another villages. I was on the field. I was talking to the mukhya, and I was just asking him that the इस गांव में क्या problem होती है यहाँ पे pipes burst करती है. So he was like, no, यहाँ पे pipes burst नहीं करती है. यहाँ पे तो पानी आता रहता है. And so I'm not exaggerating when I say this. Just like 10 feet outside his office, there was somebody. There was a man. He was bathing, and he didn't have any water left. So the water stopped coming from the pipe, and he didn't have any water in his jar either. And he had heard me. He had overheard me talking to somebody. So he said कि आप क्या दिल्ली से रिसर्च के लिए आए हैं पानी के बारे में जानने? I said yeah. He's like कि आप उनसे क्या पूछ रहे हो? आप मेरे से पूछिए वो आपको नहीं बताएंगे. And then well, I
Yeah,
mean
okay.
of
I
course.
understand. Okay,
So
fine. All
yeah,
right.
I mean
I
yeah.
think, Ronak, we have had a wonderful talk from you. We really understand what you are up to. Looks like we should talk to you 1 year from now and see what your views are, what you learned, and what you
Yeah,
are.
that would be a nice end line with this baseline.
Yeah,
But yeah.
yeah. So, but in the meantime, unless you have something extra you want to add, uh, do you have anything extra you want to add? Or can we just end this here? I think we are having a
I
internet.
think there was some network. I think there's some
Yeah,
network issue in the middle.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's okay. But I'm just asking you, do you have anything to add or shall we end it here?
No, I think yeah, I don't think I have anything to add. I would just like whoever's watching it and whoever wants to get into research, I would just really encourage them to like actively apply for RShips. Just keep cold emailing professors, especially if you want to go for a PhD. Not only does this look good on your CV, but what is more important is that you gain a set of good skills, skills that can be applied anywhere, even if you want to work in a consultancy. And I think it's a good way to push your boundaries, read more. So just keep applying, and try to multitask things as well. So like I remember I was interning during my master's thesis as well, so I used to take my off days as well. But the point is that had I not interned, I would not have been introduced to development research at this level.
Okay.
So I feel that people should just try to just keep applying, and
Okay.
uh, be at it, and you'll be
All right.
fine.
Okay. Great advice. Okay, let's say bye to the viewers and let me
Yeah.
say I'll be back with an expert or another Indian soon. Till then, bye everybody.